So in a few moments' time, we're going to hear from Bear Grylls. We're going to hear about his life, his faith, his adventures, and his new book, which is here, The Greatest Story Ever Told. There's also a chance for you to ask questions too. So there'll be a QR on the screen shortly. If you want to kind of send in your questions, you can do. We'll get a few of those questions asked to Bear directly. But let me give you a bit of a background to who Bear Grylls is, just in case you didn't know. Bear Grylls is probably the most recognisable face of adventure on the planet. He's a former British Special Forces soldier who went on to become one of the youngest ever climbers of Mount Everest. From Everest, he has gone on to host more extreme adventure TV shows across more global networks than anybody in history. These shows include the legendary Discovery Channel show Man vs. Wild, and the hit show Running Wild with Bear Grylls, now in its 9th season on National Geographic. He also hosts the hit Netflix series You vs. Wild, which is devoured by millions of young people around the world, and me. He's a double Emmy Award winner, a family man, a #1 best-selling author who has sold over 20 million books. He's also the first ever chief ambassador to 55 million young scouts worldwide. Yet despite all this, he would give up every other achievement just to have written this book on the story of Jesus. To quote him in a recent interview, "It's been the hardest but most beautiful thing I have been involved in. And already it's changing lives all around the world. Because the story of Jesus affects and touches us all. It's a story of our lives and of all of our futures, wrapped up in his story. This is why it is the greatest story ever told." Let's give a massive round of applause for Bear Grylls.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much. It's really, really special for me to be with all of you guys here today. Thank you. What an incredible place and community you've got here. Super inspiring for me to see, genuinely. I think the country needs lights like you guys and everything you do, so respect. I've been asked to share a few words on what adventure and faith mean to me, and what role that those two things have played in my life. But to be honest, to talk about faith isn't always easy, and I always think faith can be really hard to describe. You know, it's a bit like trying to describe swimming, maybe, or eating ice cream. But I will do my best for you guys. When I first joined the British Special Forces as a young soldier, a man much wiser than me said this. He said, there are 3 things in life to have faith in. You got to have faith in yourself, you got to have faith in each other, and you got to have faith in the Almighty. And I always remembered that. But what does having faith really mean? And how does it help us? How does it guide us? How does it empower us? Because I think when life is all going great, it's easy to think that we don't need any help. But what happens is that life tends to come along and then hit us hard. And it tests us, and it asks questions. And if our foundations are shaky, we fall down. And I've seen it many times. You know, everyone thinks they're strong, especially in the wild. Everyone thinks they're strong until they aren't. Myself included. And as you know, the wild can be a very humbling place. But it's a universal truth that whoever we are, We will all face our time of testing, our Everest, if you like. Whether it's an actual mountain, or maybe a tough time at home, or at work, or maybe it's something worse. Maybe it's like losing somebody close to us. Whatever it is, life will test us all at some point, and our Everests always come. I was lucky many years ago to stand on the summit of the world's highest mountain, on top of that high, hostile peak. And it was extraordinary. You know, you see the curvature of the earth at the edges, and you're just aware you're truly somewhere special. But that peak also took its toll. And we had 4 climbers lose their lives up there. 2 died of the cold. And two fell to their deaths. And to be honest, on that mountain, I experienced as many moments of doubts and struggles as I did moments of just eyes wide wonder. And people often ask me, they say, well, what helped you? And what has helped you since? In many, jungles and deserts and tough places. And the truth for me is found in that word, faith. Especially in each other and in the Almighty. Because I've learned that alone I'm actually pretty weak. But connected to something bigger, I'm stronger. And my faith then really helps me. From so many different ways, so many moments, from the day job, such as just being stuck in quicksand or, pinned in rapids maybe, avalanches, rock falls, parachute failures, you name it, so many. But of course also in life as well, in the good times and in the bad times. I've just learnt, lean on this beautiful presence of Christ within. Empowering and quiet, but always there. And really, it's never let me down. It really hasn't. But I also say that having a faith hasn't meant that everything's suddenly easy. And to be honest, if anything, it's actually been the opposite. It's meant battles and struggles and doubts too. But those things are just part of life. They're part of the journey. And maybe especially the doubts. I've learned that they're okay. That they're actually part of having faith. 2 sides, as they say, of the same coin. And then at other times, I've simply tried to go it alone. And I've survived for a while. But alone, we can never be fully empowered. Time and so many adventures have just taught me that. And it's like a point of awareness. I've come to realize that actually having that Almighty inside of us is the starting point of all true adventure. It's actually the beginning. So nowadays, for me, when it comes to quietly bending the knee and asking for Christ's presence inside to bring me peace and to strengthen the spirit and lead me into light. I know that I've got nothing to lose, and everything to gain. And as they say, man is never as tall as actually when he kneels down, and I've always loved that. So I know I'm going to answer a few questions in a minute from you guys, but I wanted to end on some simple words that I once saw written on a little old wooden cross in a small mountain chapel. And they're words of a simple prayer. And they say this: Christ be beside me. Christ be within me. Christ to shield me, and Christ to win me. Beautiful words, humble words, words of life that have helped me in so many ways and so many adventures. And those are the words I want to stand here tonight and pass on to you guys. Thank you.
Brilliant. Great stuff. Mate, that was brilliant. So helpful. Thank you for that. Do grab a seat. I think. Mate, it's so helpful to hear some of your kind of faith story and what it means to you to have faith. Let's, if you want to send their questions, they can do on the QR code in the corner there. So do scan in your questions and get your phones out if you want to ask some questions. But first of all, you served as a trooper with 21 SAS as a young man. What was that like?
That was a huge privilege. I think at a young age, it gave me a community and friendships and a confidence at a young age that maybe I didn't have. That was also one of the hardest things I've done in my life. I mean, the book was hard. That was hard in a different way. I actually failed selection first time around. I remember 120 of us lined up, looking left and right, everyone huge, muscled. I thought, I'm dead. And failed the first time. They invited some of us to come back, try again. And actually, second time around, I learned, don't look left, don't look right, look forward, give more, dig deeper, be focused. And at the end, 4 of us were still standing. And as I say, friendships that have lasted a lifetime, skills that obviously I've got to be able to use in my day job since, all the climbing and the skydiving stuff. But like I say, friendships and a community for life,
Brilliant. And you mentioned just now that you climbed Everest, a massive achievement. But what is amazing, I think, is that you broke your back. Was it 18 months earlier? So kind of, how was that? I mean, breaking your back in a free fall accident and then climbing Everest. How does that happen?
Well, that was a dark time, and like I say, life often hits us left field when we least expect it and where we're least ready for it. But that accident changed my life in so many ways. At the time, it was all negative because it was like hospitals and pain, and I was told I was under a millimeter from severing my spinal cord. Wow. And, that was a dark time of trying to rebuild my life and my movement and my confidence. But I look back now and I think I wonder without that, whether then I would have ever had that drive to actually go for this huge dream of mine that had been Everest since I was a kid. And I really do feel it's sometimes those left field things that make us. And I think I never would have followed that dream if I just kept doing that job I was doing. But actually, Everest became the whole focus of that recovery. And as I say, then eventually that mountain, changed my life.
And how did you get through that whole experience? Were there some kind of key things that help you to drive forward and to? I can't imagine when you're breaking your back and then trying to climb Everest. What practically did you begin to see that become a reality?
Well, I think it was just trying to get, my movement back, my confidence back, my strength back. It was step by step. Actually, was it? People go, it must have been a very positive journey from there to the top of the world. But actually, it was like, it's like down, up. And you lean on great friends, and my family were incredible. My faith definitely helped me at that stage. I had sort of found a faith as a teenager, and that was definitely part of that journey for me. In those moments, but step by step. And
was that coming to faith like a massive revelation in a burning bush, or how did you kind of gradually come to faith? What was your story behind some of that?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't anything like that. I always had a really natural faith as a kid.
Yeah.
And I always just believed in something bigger than what I saw around me. And I knew it was good, but I couldn't articulate it really. But but it was there, And then I went to school, and suddenly we had to go to chapel, and it was very formal. Everyone was in white robes. Half of it was in Latin. And I thought, wow, I've got God wrong. So I kind of threw the whole thing out, really, the baby with the bathwater. But I remembered a really low point as a teenager. I was just struggling with some stuff. And I remember saying a little prayer, like at the base of a tree on my own one night. And just saying, I wish you were like I knew you when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Amen.
Wow.
And I don't know, from little acorns, oak trees grow, but really from that moment, I said, please be with me. And a fire was lit, a light was lit. It wasn't a roaring fire, it was like a pilot light.
Yeah.
But that light has never gone out. Wow. And it's just been there ever since. It's as I say, doubts and struggles, two sides of the same coin, lots of doubts still, but that presence of the Almighty has never left. And I've lent on it through so much. And I wouldn't want to do life actually on my own. I feel hand and glove, without the glove, without the hand, but with the glove, it's a Hampshire hammer, as my friend Phil. There's a big Phil is at the back, my friend, who we travel quite a bit together. Phil served for many, many years in the SS, much longer than I ever did. He's incredible. He always talks to his Hampshire hammer. I remember asking him, what is a Hampshire hammer? He goes, the Hampshire hammers, isn't it? But it's a fist and glove, it's a hand and glove. The glove would be a Hampshire, wouldn't be much of a hammer, would it, Phil? So it's that thing, glove and then the hand of the Almighty.
So your TV shows now, we've seen some clips just then, phenomenal stuff, and now watched by 1 billion people worldwide. Was that the game plan initially? Did you think, one day I want to become this mega TV star?
No, I still take all of that with it's not a pinch of salt, it's a bucket of salt, isn't it? And, I think it's my work, and I love my work. I love the team we work with. I never take that for granted, but it's not the real stuff in life. The real stuff's here, and connections and friendships and, sharing the journey, I suppose.
And do you find it hard almost being so notorious and people knowing you in the street? Is that a weird thing to kind of deal with, being a celebrity? And
I think I'd look at it, and we've got three sons, so they've kind of grown up with a bit of that. But I always say to them, you know what? It's friends all over the world.
Yeah,
that's how I look at it, and yeah, it's true. It's true. Friends all over the world.
So everyone always wants to know, what is the worst thing you've ever eaten? Because you've eaten some pretty rough stuff. So what is the kind of top thing that you would not recommend?
This is very much a theological question.
Yeah, deep.
Worst, it probably, I know rat brain was a low point. Ooh. I don't know, so many snakes and scorpions and tarantulas and yak eyeballs and raw goat's testicles was a low point. The worst is probably the anus of a skunk.
Wow.
Again, the clue is in the two words, really. You should just... if the first word doesn't trip you up and the second one should be a red flag, So I've got smarter over the years. You'll try and pick my protein sources a bit better.
I can imagine kind of Bear's restaurant kind of thing, kind of taking off maybe, just...
Empty.
Empty, yeah. Okay.
Empty, yeah.
So facing fear is a big thing, a common theme in all your different programs. What have you learned about overcoming fears, and what are you still scared of?
Well, first of all, fear is part of life. If we're not scared of stuff, we're not in the fight enough. And if you sit in that comfort zone with no fight and no fear, you rot. So all of us in life, you've got to seek out a bit of that discomfort. It's good. It's where we keep our edge. In whatever way, some people is low. It doesn't matter. Whatever that threshold is, seek it out. If you run from fears, they always get the better of you. And if you stay still, you stagnate. So you get the only way through fears, right through the middle. I find so many things here. I actually find this sort of thing quite scary. Once I sort of relax into it, it's okay. But I get really nervous backstage. Hands really shake. You know what? It's okay. Life, part of life. I don't mind it now. I treat it as training for the good stuff.
And with your books, you've sold over 20 million copies, lots of sales in the USA and in China. But you've described this book as being your most important book. So why this book particularly?
Because it's so much big. It's all of our stories. It's all of our futures, our lives, our hopes, our ambitions, ultimately our ultimate future as well. And I don't know, it's just had an effect like nothing else I've ever done. And I really mean it. I'll give up all that stuff, all those like tins and pots of stuff. I give those up in a heartbeat. They come and go and rot. This is like our lives. And I get, I'm not coming here because I'm paid or anything. I'm here because it's the stories. It's the connection. It's people. I get people writing to me all over the world, every culture, every faith. And they all say the same thing, which I had no idea of the actual story of Christ. And myself included. I mean, it's hard to read the Bible sometimes. It's like, and most of us, even of people of faith, we know stories. The Good Samaritan maybe, or the crucifixion, or that lovely bit Abby read, a bit of, Mary was a virgin birth, these sort of things. But we don't know the story, start to finish, the ultimate love story of sacrifice and risk and freedom and laughter and friendship. And I always knew the religious version. The real version is much more incredible. Mm-hmm. So it's pointing people away from the sanitized version of religion that we always get towards the real person, the beating heart of it, who is like universally attractive. Mm-hmm. I can read some of these stories in mosques, hospitals, prisons, all over the world. And it's always like, wow, this guy's incredible.
For those who haven't quite read it yet, can you just explain how the book works?
I've written the story of Jesus as a thriller.
Yeah.
So short punt. A pastor wrote to me the other day from the States, and he said, wow, this is so obvious. Why didn't nobody do this? This is the story of Jesus as if Tom Clancy has been told to tell it 100% accurately, but he's been told to write it. So that's kind of what it is. It's just like super short chapters, super punchy for people like me.
Did you kind of lock yourself in a study to write this over a period of time? Or how did you begin to kind of...
Well, I kind of felt like clear the deck to write this, and I couldn't believe nobody had not done it before. I was actually filming in the jungle with my son for a month. Every night I'd come back and just write late into the night. He thought I was on drugs. He was going, you're not sleeping. You're just like writing all day, and then we're working hard all day. It's like, but it was like, it's great. There's like all these things. The pain doesn't last forever. It's there, and then now it's like, has a life of its own way beyond me. And that's what I love about it.
And the stories you're hearing now, is that kind of what you hoped for, or what's your ambition for the book?
Like I say, I think to introduce people to the real story, not the sanitized religious version, the real one that changes lives, enriches lives, empowers lives, heals lives, puts that streak of steel in us all, and that light, and that pilot light, if you like. And it's going to do that for a while, I think. Because it's like I say, it's his story. It's not our story or my story. It's like his story. It's what I remember somebody saying, that's history. History, his story.
I'm going to invite Abby up now. I have some questions from those of you who are sat here. So you've got your phones out. You can still use a QR code and give us your questions.
Wow, what tech.
There you go. It's 21st century here in Bournemouth. There you go.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that many people would like to hear you answer is, if you could have 5 minutes face-to-face with Jesus in person, what would you ask? Or what would you say?
Oh, it's a tough one, isn't it? I think I spend 4.5 minutes on my knees. Probably like down in the dirt. But the last bit, I don't know, is like, you really who you are.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, it changes everything. People say, oh, he was a good man. But like, good men don't go around saying you're the son of God. They say a lot of other things. You're either mad or worse, maybe evil, or you are who you say you are. But you're not just a good man, you don't, that's not it. So I think that would be the ultimate question, like, is it real? And the proof of that always then is in his actions, and the miracles, and then ultimately, did he rise again? So maybe that's a question.
And we want to get through a few, so I'm going to go quick.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be quick.
Do you feel that your faith has closed any doors for you in your line of work? So, and if that happens, how do you stay strong in those moments? Well, 11 people have voted for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. For sure. I think so. But again, it's okay. It's like you got to try and live with heart and follow that and do what you feel is right. And some will love it, some won't care, some will hate it. But again, if in life you don't do anything, if you risk nothing, you gain nothing. Sit still, you stagnate. So, and those losses are small losses compared to what we gain. So yeah.
Amen. The top question that has been voted for thus far is was there a challenge that you did, particular challenge that you felt brought you closer to God?
I think often, people go, oh, were you closer to God on the top of a high mountain? And it seems a cliche, and the answer is probably not. I think actually it's in the failures, probably. The stuff people don't know about, the real battles, the dark times. Phil and me would talk about this driving here. It's that footprints in the sand, isn't it? When you look back and you go, why is there only one set of footprints? It was like God and me walking together. And the tough times, only one set. And him saying, that's when I carried you. So I think it's, yes, when you're closest, when you're carried, and when are you often carried in the struggles and the battles, the dark times. And the many failures I've had, which have been a lot, by the way. It's true.
We've all got many we won't talk about. If you had to go back to your teenage years, what advice would you give to yourself?
Slow burn is okay. You don't have to peak at school. You don't have to be the superstar at school. Take your time. Have a few great friends. Be a never give upper. Try and be kind along the way.
Has there, during your journey of faith, been a moment that really transformed your relationship with Jesus? Has there been kind of key moments? You mentioned one already.
I do think it's the unsung stuff. It's the non-dramatic stuff again. It's a little thing, like saying prayers with our boys when they were little over beside their bed. It's not the big stuff. It's the little stuff. Those are like daily beautiful moments. It's a great thing about faith. You don't have to do anything great to experience that light.
It's good.
That's beautiful.
Little less serious question. So, what is kind of best animal you've come across in your years doing adventures? The best kind of experience with a wild creature?
I think I love rhinos. Yeah. Rhinos. I think everyone always thinks they're brutes and big and like, ugh. They're actually super tender and very gentle with their little ones. They love mud.
There you go. There you go, good stuff.
Would you say, I don't know if you would tell us if you knew, but who's the most interesting person you've ever met?
I think the show I did with Zelensky at the start of the war was like, it was the first time he'd been out of the bunker. Obviously since he's traveled all over and he's been, but at this stage, he literally hadn't left the bunker. It was month 2 of the war. And to be with him and walk around Kyiv at that time was actually pretty amazing.
Wow. Talking of war, in your military career, how easy or hard is it to stay true to your Christian values in the military?
Well, I think it was harder, actually, in those days. It's amazing. Again, we were talking about this today, of like, there's such a... they've been having like baptisms down at Commando Training Centre at Lympstone for the Royal Marines. They have a tank, cold water, muddy tank. It's your punishment thing. You get sent in the cold water tank. They've been performing baptisms in that. It's been amazing now. There's such an openness, I think, for not just young people, but all people, openness to faith. Not the religion side of it, but just like faith, to be empowered. So that's cool to see.
Brilliant. Mate, thank you so much for a round of applause to Bear Grylls. Fantastic to hear from you, mate.
Thank you.
We're going to hand back to Abby, who'll do another reading for us now, I think. So,
perfect. Just to say for you guys, have a really wonderful rest of the evening. I'm at the back for a bit, and then I'm slipping out because we're going to another event. So we're going to do a few of these in the evening, which is going to be kind of cool in different venues. But I really hope you have a great fun rest of the evening. Abby's amazing. She's doing this reading now for later in the book with where you actually get to see what Jesus is like a little bit. It's quite cool. I know you got some good music and stuff.
Yeah.
And we're grabbing
And there's books to buy on the way out as well, so don't forget that.
We're grabbing a cup of tea and we're out of here.
Fantastic.
But God bless, guys. Thank you.
Cool.